Hi everyone, Babula and I are back with you once again following the star trails, and this time we're going to be talking about the full moon in Libra that's coming up soon. But before we get into that, I just wanted to mention, by the way, how are you, Babula?
I'm good. I'm good.
Oh, good.
I'm feeling a bit like a drowned rat, but I'll pass on
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
That I'm good.
But I wanted to just mention something that I was watching yesterday, which was a documentary called Hippies and Aliens. And it was really interesting because they were going back to the times of the 60s and looking at the hippie counterculture movement and the possibility that they, because of their foray into drug taking and meditation and getting into altered states of consciousness, they were asking the question, was that the reason why the aliens turned up in droves in the 60s, or so many UFO sightings? But they were showing all the footage from the 60s, a lot of the footage, and it just reminded me of the counterculture movement is very much like the Aquarian energy that's obviously around in the background at the moment with everything that's been going on as we move more into the age of Aquarius. And I thought that was sort of really important to mention that the planetary lineup, and I know you've said this before, is very similar, if not the same, as what it was in the 60s, going through, and changing, the revolution and revelation that we're going through.
Yes, well, you might remember that earlier this year we had, when the sun was in Aquarius, we had a lot of planets, like a huge number of planets, 6 or 7 planets in the sign of Aquarius. Now, you can often get a few planets in one sign, but to have that many doesn't happen that often. And the last time it happened was in the 60s. Mm. And also the planet Uranus, which is the planet we say governs or rules the sign of Aquarius, was in a really powerful alignment with the planet Pluto in the mid-60s. So there was a lot of that energy of change and disruption and awakening and a shift in consciousness. It was really accelerated in a big way through the 60s for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. And we're certainly experiencing, something similar now as we had in February, all those planets in Aquarius again. And also people might remember that in December, Jupiter and Saturn together moved into Aquarius, which was a big event astrologically. So there's a lot of that strong Aquarian signature activation going on at this time. And so we're seeing certain kind of parallels. The energy of revolution is in the air, and the whole issue of UFOs, which I'm noticing. I mean, I haven't followed that one closely, but I've been aware of it for decades. I know you follow it really closely. But and probably because I've never actually seen one, I'd kind of like to, but I haven't also put a lot of effort into it. I think you've got to go out and gaze at the skies a lot, to sort of see them. But I'm noticing a lot more is being spoken about it. It's coming up. There's articles, there's documentaries, there's conversations. It's really coming through.
Yeah, and actually, there's just on that point, there is a in the COVID relief bill done by Trump before he left office, there was something in there that said that all the intelligence agencies have to present their information by sometime in June, I think it is, about about what they know about UFO.
Yes.
So yeah, it's very much in the times of Aquarius that will come
right.
to light.
That's right. So that's sort of coming up to the fore, isn't it? Yeah. Very interesting. It'd be interesting to see if that actually takes place.
And the expansion of consciousness too, with the hippie movement, was a huge expansion of consciousness. A lot of them did it through drug taking and meditation and yoga and practicing, and they've actually that movement has made those things mainstream today.
Exactly. And remember the hippie trail to India? That was what it was famously referred to as, but there are actually thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of Westerners were making their way to India, to the different gurus and teachers and ashrams, and learning to meditate and learning about Indian mysticism and so on. All that was going, and the civil rights movements and the women's liberation, burning the bras, the pill. I mean, so much happened in the 60s that changed everything.
Yeah.
And here we are again it's different but similar.
Yeah.
Similar themes going on, you know.
Big changes. It's like we're in the wash of the washing machine cycle. Everything's been thrown in. It's been stirred up by the planets, and we've yet to see the rinse cycle and then the finish cycle, but that'll take time. But I always say to people, just have faith in the planets, because they say, when is this going to end? You know, and they say, just have faith that let the planets do their work, get out of the way, just sit back and watch it from a detached place, which is Aquarius as well.
Aquarius, a bit of detachment absolutely helps.
Yeah. So hang in there, people. We will get through all of this eventually.
Yeah, because, you know, ultimately this Aquarius energy, when it's accelerated like this, is about awakening and a shift of consciousness and the literally the evolution of human consciousness. And so, you know, what we're seeing, one of the similar things we're seeing is the huge numbers of people planet-wide, all around the planet, out in the streets, in peaceful demonstrations, in large numbers, which, you know, mainstream media doesn't actually show all of it. They show little snippets of it and diminish the impact of it tremendously. But if you know where to look, you know, you can find what's really happening, and it's very big, you know. And it reminds me of that time of, you know, humanity, the people getting, because that's the only means the actual people have to have a real voice, you know, is in large numbers out in the street, literally demonstrating and expressing their displeasure, and it has a huge impact.
Yeah. And
so that's so that's a part of, you know, what we're speaking of here with that Aquarian energy, and it's the inevitability of change. And as we've said many times in these chats, there's no going back to where we were. You know, people still say, well, if we do this and this, we'll go back to normal. Yeah, no. Just like, you know, in the 60s, there was no going back to the way things were in the 50s. I mean, I was born in the 50s. I remember. It was a very different time. And then the 60s came, everything changed. And it's like now, every single aspect, there isn't anything you can think of that's not part of this change.
Yes.
Every single aspect of our life, personally and in the world, is going through this tremendous, it's like coal, you know, and the pressure that it's under to turn it into a diamond, isn't it? It's such pressure.
Yeah, hot housing of consciousness, basically.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
So that's what's going on in the background.
Yes.
Of course, when we have planets transiting, that's what's going on in the foreground.
Yes.
Well, that's all happening.
And in the day-to-day.
Yes, the day-to-day. So we've got the full moon in Libra coming up soon. So when is that?
Well, that will be, I'll give the exact timing for Brisbane. I'm assuming southern states will be moving out of daylight savings very soon.
On the 1st of April, I think.
Okay. So on the 29th of March at 4:48 a.m., for those who like that kind of timing, in Brisbane. So in the early morning of the 29th of March is the exact moment of the full moon. So, you know, what that means, and that's on a Monday. So that means basically Sunday night, Monday night, the moon, she will be at her fullest. Yeah. And you could really say those 2 nights, the nights when the full moon is at her peak.
And hopefully we'll see it, and the clouds will disappear and we can see.
Yes.
If we're up at that time.
Yes. Well, it's very early. And so, you know, we'll see her, like at that time, we'll see her just low in the western sky before sunrise. So in the, you know, I point over here because that's my east. So east is over here before sunrise, and the moon is full over here about to set beneath the horizon in the west. So, if, you know, for those who love to watch the full moon, but really, you know, we could go at any time in the night of the Sunday night or the Monday, and just go and stand up, and there she'll be, you know, in the sky. We're going to see, as long as the skies are clear, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the full moon in Libra, I was thinking that it's following on from, and we've just had the new moon in Pisces. They're both quite calm signs, aren't they? I think.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. And soothing and peaceful. And so what would you like to tell us about the full moon in Libra then?
Yeah, so I'll talk about Libra generally, and then I'll speak about the Libra Aries polarity, because when we're talking full moons, we have to consider both signs, because it's always about the sun in the sign opposite the moon in this sign over here. So Libra, as most people watching this are going to know something about that, is fundamentally a sign of balance. Like, you know, Astrology 101, if we need one word to describe Libra, that's probably your first go-to word. It's about balance. Balance, harmony, peace, equilibrium, tranquility. It's also a sign, it's got a lot to do with the law and justice, you know, the scales of justice, which is what the symbol represents. And interestingly about the symbol, it's the only sign that none of the air signs are represented by an animal, but even Libra, even out of the three air signs, is actually an inanimate object. There is a person, it's a woman, the goddess of justice, holding the scales, but it's about the scales themselves. And so there's this kind of energy of rationality, the rational, quite logical capacity to make a clear-headed judgment, but only after we've weighed everything up. It's not an emotional thing. You know, if we get emotional and passionate and fired up, you know, about something, which is the fire signs plus the water signs, you put those two together and you've got a lot of emotion. In Libra, it's about the considered, rational evaluation, but only once you've heard both sides of the story, you know, and considered both possibilities. And that's theoretically the role of the judge in a court of law. That's not always what happens, of course, but that's the kind of principle. And so when there's a full moon in Libra, for those couple of days, it can be a time when we're feeling like, I need more balance in my life. My house is untidy. I can't stand it anymore. I have to reorganize it and get everything feeling harmonious and beautiful again and calm. And so that I feel like I'm back in balance. And people notice this, that we respond, you know, particularly to the moon, you know, organically and emotionally and energetically, we're very responsive to the moon because she's the closest body to the earth. You know, she's like our sister in a way. She's so much influences human life. So when she's in Libra and she's full, meaning she's in, you know, every month she's in Libra for a couple of days, but when it's full, she's got prominence. And so, yeah, that theme, you know, of, and if you talk to Librans, I've noticed Libran people with a lot of Libra in their chart, maybe Libra rising or a Libran moon, they're very acutely aware of when something's not in balance. It's not that they always keep everything in balance, but they feel very disturbed and not right, you know, discombobulated when things are not in balance and harmony. And so they'll often put a great deal of effort and energy into restoring balance and harmony in some way, like a yoga teacher. In fact, I have two beautiful yoga teachers, and one of them is a Libran. And because I hear people's language, you know, as an astrologer, she speaks often of balance, and a lot of her postures are often about balance, because that's just the instinct in the sign of Libra.
Yeah. I've had some friends who are Librans, and they definitely don't like ruffled waters. So
No.
they will placate the situation. And my own grandmother used to say, if there was a something going on in the family which was disturbing the relationship, she would say to me, well, I stuck my neck out and I said, Sasa, to try and placate the situation, you know. It didn't always work, of course.
Yeah.
But that's what they feel compelled to do.
Exactly.
And the other thing I find too is because they're quite indecisive, or can be, because they can see so many sides at once, both sides. But sometimes, I mean, I'm when I did some NLP training, they teach about 5 perceptual positions, so they can see many different sides of
Yes.
the situation at one time. And because of that, they're always trying to mentally and emotionally balance, well, what would be the best thing to say here or not say or do? But they're juggling all these different perceptions all the time. And that's can be quite a challenge for a Libran.
Yeah, that's right. I remember years ago, I had a friend who had 2 little boys and one of them was a Libran, and she learnt very quickly, if they were out and are going to get ice creams, not to ask him if he wanted chocolate or strawberry, because it would take him forever to make a choice because both were so enticing. And how could he possibly choose? So she would buy him an ice cream and say, here's an ice cream. And he'd be ecstatic because he's got an ice cream.
Yes.
You know, it's that, because it is that. And I remember years ago, there was a book written by an Australian historian whose name I forget. And it was called The Tyranny of Choice. And I remember the title because it really struck me. It's a powerful title. You know, the challenges and the dilemmas we have when we're trying to make a decision, and there are 2 options and we can see the pros and cons of both options. And we're trying to weigh it up. And Libra often then has anxiety about getting it wrong. What if I get it? What if I make the wrong choice? So these sort of ideas and these themes are going to be arising for people. And
they must be a shocker to get when they go grocery shopping.
Yeah, I often use the analogy as an example, because this is where I have to bring Aries in. Because, you know, the sun is still moving through the sign of Aries. And when we have a full moon in any sign, it's because the moon is now exactly opposite the sun. So we can't really consider a full moon in any sign without considering that the sun is opposite in the opposite sign. So the sun's in Aries opposite the full moon in Libra. And just as this example, like imagine 2 people going out to dinner, one's an Aries and one's a Libran. And the Aries says, well, I've already decided, what are you having? And the Libran says, I don't know, what are you having? And the Aries person then is frustrated because what does it matter what I'm having? Just what do you want? You know, you have what you want. Oh, I can't decide. What are you having? I'll have what you're having. And it's only because of that dilemma of making a decision. Now, please, all you beautiful Librans listening to this, it doesn't mean this is always true of all Librans. No. But it is an issue for any of us that it can come up, even if we have, you know, we might have one planet in Libra. It might be Mercury or your Mars or Jupiter or something. And so that, or Libra rising, and that theme, you'll recognize that theme. And I used to also, over the years, I've noticed that Librans often get lost, simply because if they come to a T junction, they've been given directions, they go, now, was it left or right? What if I go left and it was actually right? So they're there at the crossroads going, I'm not sure which way to go. And little things, but they demonstrate something about the nature of this sign, you know, the underlying principles of the sign itself.
It has a strong component of diplomacy too, doesn't it? Diplomacy,
you bet,
cooperation, you know, what's going to work best for people, for everyone concerned. Bit of a win-win person, I expect.
Yes, and you'll find that in any kind of roles in public life, whether it be in political politics or something like that, a dose of Libra in that person is a very helpful thing, because it helps them to be able to negotiate, to sit down around a table and actually have a discussion and weigh things up and ideally come to a mutual agreement. you know, like you said, win-win. That's Libra's desire. Aries' desire is to just get on with it. Just make a decision. I'm over this now. For God's sake, somebody make a decision.
Yeah.
And if you can't, I will. You know, stop just sitting around talking about it. But Libra's, no, we haven't finished the discussion.
That'd be hard as a jurist, wouldn't they?
So that's right. So, you know, it's so valuable to consider the signs in polarity. So, you know, so those scales, you know, the delicate scale, like in Egypt, you know, we know that myth of the, you know, when someone dies, the soul goes into the underworld and their heart is placed on the scales. And it's weighed against a feather.
Yeah.
You know, there's that thing of weighing things up and is this in harmony? Is this in balance, or is it way out of balance? You know, I've long felt that if we wanted an alternative symbol for the sign of Libra, the yin yang symbol would be just like it's perfection.
Yeah.
Because it epitomizes what we're talking about. You know, the perfect harmonic balance between yin and yang, and even inside the yin there's that circle of yang, and in the yang there's the circle of yin, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and in the ancient traditions of China, and I'm not speaking about modern political China because that's something else altogether, but in the ancient traditions of China, and anyone who practices feng shui or Chinese medicine or is interested in these things, or Tai Chi or Qigong, they will know that that whole philosophy and system is based on the principles of balance and harmony. And I've seen this for many, many, many years. Many people that I personally know or have met who have any connection with that Chinese system of thought, whether they be, you know, acupuncturists or feng shui practitioners and so on, I don't think I've seen an exception. They all have a strong Libran theme in their chart. And now when I see it, I go, and I'll often ask the person, you know, do you feel a connection to the Chinese system of thought and philosophy? And it's so common, they'll say yes.
Yeah.
It's a fit. Because Aries is prone to, you know, battle, and Libra's the peacemaker.
Yes. Yeah.
So folks, I would recommend on this full moon that we pay attention to how can we bring peace and harmony and balance into relationship dynamics in particular, because they're really going to come up around this full moon for people.
And not always easy if you happen to be with an Aries, which I'm not, but you know.
Sure.
Yeah, that would be a really tough situation, I'd imagine.
Yeah, because of the natural independence and impatience and forthrightness. So while Aries, like if someone was to sit in the Libran zone and look across at Aries, it would look a bit crude and crass. And Aries looks across at Libra and thinks, oh, it's all too nice over there. Like, that's not me. It's too nice.
Yes.
You know, they're quite different because one is ruled by Mars. Aries is ruled by Mars, the god of war. And Libra is ruled by Venus, the goddess of beauty and harmony and arts and love, you know. So Libra's natural inclination is to want to create beauty and harmony and love. In fact, I've even known Librans who are always matchmaking their friends, like, oh, I've met the perfect man for you. You have to meet, you know, I'm going to set you up on a date, because they just want to see people come together in relationship.
Yeah, they'd be good matchmakers, I suppose. But my grandmother had son in Libra, and she always had beautiful, beautiful gardens. You know, she could have entered them in the open gardens tours that people had. They were so beautiful.
Wow.
And inside the house, everything wasn't expensive, but everything was beautifully placed so that I'm sure the chi in that house, I mean, I lived in it. It was just very just lovely to be in that zone as a child. Yes. And it was as zen as you could get in the 50s.
Yes.
But you know, it was she had pretty things that really were dynamic. She just knew how to put things in the right place, you know.
That's right. It's a natural instinct. I've seen this. You walk into the home of a Libran, like you're just saying, man or woman. And there is that harmony. There's a sense of grace. There's the things of beautiful alignment, understated, beautiful harmony of colors and it's just natural. They're not even trying, they haven't gone and done some expensive course to learn how to do it. It's just innate.
Yeah.
The cushions are just the right color because that's important to Libra. So many Librans love clothes, man or woman. Not all, because with some it operates in a different way, but many. A little child, like I'm thinking now of a little girl who's a Libran, she's going to be obsessed with clothes from a very young age because that's how Libra experiences life, through this lens of Venus, of beauty and harmony. And they're like, oh no, mummy, I'm not wearing that T-shirt with that dress, with that skirt. That doesn't match, like that's just innate in us. We are that from the beginning. It's fascinating. So I think during this full moon, when this energy is so heightened and highlighted, and it's opposite Aries, if there's a conflict going on, this is an opportunity for us to practice the fine art of negotiation, consideration, listening to the other, considering the other's point of view, trying to work out some kind of an agreement. This is a sign of agreements, signing documents, agreements between people. And it might take a while to get there, but that's the goal. Or it might be as simple as, I just really need to change my house around and make it look more beautiful because it doesn't feel good anymore.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else do we have going on?
So let's have a little look. So before I move from that theme of Libra, I want to speak a little bit more specifically about this full moon exactly, because the moon's at 8 degrees of Libra and the sun is at 8 degrees of Aries, which marks the moment of the full moon. But so is Chiron and Venus at 8 degrees of Aries. So that means Chiron and Venus that are exactly the same degree as the sun and exactly opposite the moon. So we actually can't speak about this full moon without including the energy of Chiron and Venus.
Okay, so what is it?
Yes, great. So it's interesting that Venus is here because Venus, as I just said, is the ruler of Libra. And here it is over here in Mars's sign, Aries. So that to me highlights this theme of relationship dynamics, like really coming to the fore. The light is being shone into relationship. The light of the moon, the light of the sun, it's like full bore, highlighting, because Venus is the relationship planet. It's conjunct the sun in Aries opposite the full moon, and the full moon's in Libra, which is ruled by Venus. So you get this sort of double whammy effect. So conflicts can arise, but it's this fine balance between not discounting our own individual needs, which is Aries, but trying to do it in a way that's has a certain harmony with the other person. Like that's not easy. We humans have got a lot to learn about relationship. The presence of Chiron on the sun, Chiron, of course, is the wounded healer, and will really, I think, be an important part of this full moon energetic, and it's going to be an incredible opportunity for us all, regardless of whether we have planets in our birth chart in these signs or close to this full moon story or not, for everybody to consider the ways we're wounded, the ways our partner, or not only just partners, like other significant people in our life, can be members of your family, co-workers that, play quite a key role in your day and in your life in some way. How just getting angry and wanting to go into battle like that may not be the most effective thing, even though that comes up.
Yeah.
It's okay that it comes up, but can we take a pause, take a breath and go, wait a minute, I can't just go full bore into battle here. That's how I feel, but I need to stop and take a breath and have a conversation and a discussion with this person, and even say, look, can we talk? Can we just go somewhere and can I buy you a cup of coffee? You know, I just would love to talk to you about this, you know, whatever that is, in whatever the situation is. That will be very beneficial because at full moon, everything is heightened, as we know. You know, emotions can really get, and as you said before, Libra doesn't like all that emotional drama, and it doesn't like aggression and conflict, and it will back off at the sign, or it's a cardinal sign like Aries, so it will step in and initiate a conversation and say, wait, can we discuss this, please? You know, can we just calm down for a minute and, you know, let's take a breath and discuss it. So it's a lot of energy here, but it can really trigger our wounds. And when our wounds are triggered, as we all know, we don't always behave very rationally or with a great deal of consciousness. We're in massive reaction.
Yes, that's right.
Yep, old traumas get triggered by other people. It's usually how they're triggered, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like landmines in the mind, and on someone's mind, and you just step on it, and you don't even know you're doing it. Yeah.
No, and you're like, what happened? What just happened?
Where did that come from?
That's right, because you just set off an old trauma, an old wound. You know, we all have them, and everyone does. So it happens.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of themes that are going to be up. So yeah, it's around that balance of the dynamic energy of Aries meets the polarity, which is, you know, balance and peace and harmony. And how can they find some kind of integration, you know, and workability together? It's not one over the other or one's better than the other at all. So yeah, I was fascinated to see that powerful conjunction of Chiron and Venus right on the sun opposite the full moon, all across Aries, Libra. So, and of course, Aries and Libra are ruled by Venus and Mars, so which are often called the lovers of the zodiac, those two planets, you know.
Yeah.
Masculine and feminine. And that's another theme. You know, Libra's got a lot to do with that balance of masculine and feminine energy in us. You know, themes around gender identity and so on.
Yeah. I think too that Mars is sort of like, it's, you know, it's the pioneering energy, isn't it?
Yes.
So it says, okay, you might have a bright idea, and say you've got a think tank going, you know, someone has a bright idea and you go, yeah, that's great. Okay, action, let's get into it, you know, like, wow. And they don't hold back. So it's more of that masculine energy, because there are women who do that, but it's more that pioneering spirit to try something new, is that Martian energy.
Yes.
You know, and to go out and explore like our explorers did in history, didn't they?
That's right. And just go for it.
Yeah, and be brave and courageous, and just, you know, if something breaks, try and fix it with what you got around you. I mean,
that's right.
Sometimes I think those explorers were amazing to just go off into the bush.
I know.
But then you've got this other energy, you know, that is not like that, not
at all,
not naturally like that. Can learn to be like that, but not naturally like that.
Like if you had a group of people going off into the wilderness like that, into the unknown, and one's an Aries and one's a Libran, the Libran will have packed some nice things to, you know, like if the family's going camping, Libra will be making sure that, you know, you've got really nice sheets, and you've got some nice comfortable things, and you've got something pretty to put there, because that's important. And the Aries are like, oh, who needs all that? We don't need all that. Let's just rough it, you know? Yeah, I know. So it's all the polarities of the signs are so fascinating, and one can't really exist without the other. There's always the opposite polarity.
Yes. Libra likes glamping, not camping. Thank you.
That's right. That's right. And Aries is a bit more like Bear Grylls, you know.
Very true.
Just goes off with a knife in his back pocket. That'll do me, and away it goes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what else have we got happening?
Okay, so let's see, there's also around this period, now and around the full moon for this sort of week, a conjunction of Mercury and Neptune in Pisces, which will be exact on the 30th, which is literally the day after the full moon. And Mercury in Pisces, we will have spoken of that last time when it moved into Pisces. Mercury is the mind, and in Pisces it becomes very kind of vast and spacious and boundless, and we don't always think in logical, linear, rational ways with clear definitions. It's highly intuitive. In planets in Pisces have to feel their way and intuit their way. You put it together with Neptune, the ruler of Pisces. So this is a period, and it's, the heavens have opened. I mean, it's going to clear soon, I think, but because we are recording this a little bit, a few days before the full moon, but it's very much a time when people can feel a bit confused, a bit mentally overwhelmed. We need to give our brains and our minds a break. Just great. I mean, if anyone's in any way artistically inclined, particularly with writing, poetry, anything like that, or just really tapping into the muse, to our intuition, not expecting too much. Like if you're studying for an exam, this could be quite challenging.
Yeah.
Because that's not how the mind's operating. That mental energy is not really operating quite in that way, unless you can trust your intuition and your inner hunches, and get that through. There's also the other thing that's happening around this same period, and it will be exact, actually on the 27th, which is 2 days just before the full moon, but it will be in effect for a good week or so still. Mars is conjunct the North Node in Gemini. So here's Mars that we mentioned before, the Aries planet of action and energy, and it's dynamic, and it has a certain innate kind of aggressive, do it, get on with it sort of an energy. In Gemini, highly stimulating the mental plane and information and communication. And a lot of people are finding themselves super busy. I know I am. Gemini's up in my 10th house of my chart. So it's like just so much going on. I'm busy, lots of communication, lots of prepping of workshops and so on going on, and, just keeping up with it all. And when it joins with the North Node, when planets meet up with the North Node, it really is quite strong. And one of the themes of this is that it can trigger, interesting given what we've just been talking about with the full moon, it can trigger arguments and like quite feisty, aggressive conversations, or the desire for people to want to win the battle. But it's interesting that it's all happening. There's often like this, and our birth charts are like this. We're very complex, multidimensional creatures. And, you get these things in astrology where this is happening, but then this is happening over here, and that's quite different. So it's never really simple and straightforward.
Yeah.
But I think that Mars North Node conjunction in Gemini, we can see some interesting things going on in public life, and we're seeing that in Australian politics at the moment. There's been a few of our pollies, our leader for one, who every time he opens his mouth lately, he's putting his foot right in it and stirring up the ire and the frustration and the fury of a large part of the female population of this country. It's just one blunder after another, and it's very revealing. It reveals something about where he's coming from, So, themes like that, but it can also be very helpful. It can be, for some people, it might be, this is the moment to have the conversation that needed to happen.
Yes. Yeah.
They've been putting off for years even.
Yes, this is past its use by date. Let's talk about it now.
That's right. Okay, this is going to, and one person will just step in and do it and start it. because that's Mars. Something has to happen here, and Mars makes things happen. One way or another, someone will say something, and that opens the door. So it can be really, really beneficial because Mars has a kind of cutting action. You know, Mars Aries is sharp. There's a sharpness here, so it can cut through layers that have been layers of protection, you know, and just slice through a bit and kind of get to the point. Let's, as we know, Aries, Mars people, get to the point. Yeah. So there's that happening. So let me just run through a little bit. On the 4th of April, Mercury will leave Pisces, and our minds are going to go, oh, it's like suddenly it's like they've woken up. You know? Wow, I can think again. Or, you know, like, wow, now I'm ready to do this, this, and this, and this, and this. And our mind, it's like our mind clears and gets energized and activated. And we're ready to make decisions and make plans and put things in place and get on with it and make all those phone calls and make all those decisions, you know, and send all those messages and get that work done on the website that we've been, you know, trying to get done. And all of a sudden the energy's there for our minds to really get into gear. So I think a lot of people are going to be feeling like, thank goodness. Well, I have Mercury in Pisces, so I don't mind when it's in Pisces. That just feels normal to me.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting, you know, when planets leave Pisces and move into Aries, it's such a dramatic change of energy. And it's very, very noticeable. So for those who like to follow these things, that occurs on the 4th of April. And I'll be even more precise. It's around about 1:40 in the afternoon on the 4th of April. So, you know, if you're curious about it, just make a note and pay attention to what you experience and what starts happening.
Yes, yeah.
Because things can happen like really quickly.
Yes, because I often put these times in my diary. I put these times in my diary, and
I do.
Happens, I go back and go, what was happening then? And I'll go and have a look, and sure enough, that the planetary influences there. Yeah,
Absolutely. So Mercury is actually very quite happy to be in the sign of Aries. And, you know, it just gives the mind some real fire and fuel and energy. And we're going to become a bit more forthright and direct and straightforward and, you know, make decisions and get on with things.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Let's see now well, I might just kind of run through again, like last time. There are no major things going on with the slower moving outer planets. It's all to do with the inner planets, which affect us all like on a daily basis in a particularly personal way. So on the 9th of April, Mercury in Aries will make a conjunction with Chiron at 9 of Aries. So again, you know, Chiron is both wounding and healing. And we always have to remember that with Chiron. So it can trigger a wound, open a wound, bring our attention to a wound in whatever way. It could be some kind of physical ailment or issue that's going on in the body. With Aries energy, Mercury often has a lot to do with health too, I've noticed over the years. In Aries, things can develop really quickly, like you know, infections, fevers, things to do with the brain or the head or the blood, injuries from sharp instruments, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that isn't there something, I've forgotten what it is now, where it's not advised to have surgery? I'm just trying to think, was that to do with Mars?
Yes, you need to make sure Mars is in a fairly healthy condition, because you know the surgeon is governed by the planet Mars, and Because it's not everyone who can get a very, very, very sharp scalpel and cut into somebody's flesh.
That's right. Yeah.
Really, that you and people, men or women who work with sharp tools.
Mm.
You know, this is how it works. You know, you have to have the astrological makeup and nature in you to even gravitate towards that kind of work and activity. Because if you don't, you'll be doing something else because that's not your thing.
Yes, that's right.
You know, so it's like dentistry. I mean, God, I couldn't do what dentists do.
I've been a dental assistant and no more.
Yeah, no. Oh, God, all those, you know, injections and
No.
extractions and all those things, you know, it takes a bit of guts and a natural inclination to do those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But you need some Mars, you know, in certain conditions.
I must have some, because the second day I actually did my my 6-month training, on-site training, on-site, I mean. So the second day I was there, after having not had that job, the surgeon was doing dental surgery, you know, and was getting me to hold the, I can't remember what was it, to hold something while he cut something out. And I'm looking at the person's mouth and I'm going, okay, because blood doesn't bother me, but it was the look of the scalpel that was, I went,
Yes.
I'm not sure about that, you know. He said, he just turned to me and said, it's all right, they can't feel it. Okay.
Yes, that's right. It's quite a thing. And I would imagine any student of medicine, when they first have to do that, you know, in their training, it's quite a moment, I would imagine. Quite a moment. Yes, particularly if it's a live body, you know.
They're breathing.
They're breathing, like, yeah. So now, interestingly enough, this is what I mean, things get interesting and complicated, because Mars himself, on the 10th of April, in the sign of Gemini, is going to make a square with Neptune. So what we've got going on, you know, is Mars conjunct the North Node in Gemini, like really, really active. And then a week or so later, Mars still in Gemini, going to make a square with Neptune. Now, that's a really interesting scenario, and anyone who has something like that in their chart, Mars aspecting Neptune, will relate. So Mars is...
How would that energy play itself out?
Yeah, Mars is, you know, as we know, it's direct, it's forthright, it's about action, you know, doing it. Just don't think, do, act, move. And it has high energy. I always feel when our own Mars is healthy and functioning well, we have energy because we're taking action, we're making choices, we're getting on with things, and it actually gives us energy, you know, to keep doing that. When there's a strong contact with Neptune, all of a sudden it's like Mars can feel a bit deflated, a bit, where did my energy go? We might, for a number of days around that point, suddenly find like, oh God, I was going great guns, and now all of a sudden it's like someone's let the air out of my tires. Yeah. And we just might need to pull back a bit and, you know, slow it down and take a few breaths. And again, always with Neptune and Pisces, it's you've got to feel your way more. And I always feel with Neptune to Mars, it's like, if you imagine symbolically, the Mars warrior holds a sword, and that sword can be a metaphor for all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And so when it's connected to Neptune, we have to hold that sword very lightly. You know, not like I'm going to do. It's more like, what needs to happen now with this sword? You know, how does it need to move? I need to let go a bit of my grip and let that Mars energy be guided in how to move forward, instead of feeling like I have to, you know, fully control it. It's that's just a metaphor, but it's like that. Yeah. But, you know, for some people, they're suddenly just going to be feeling quite a slump for a few days, I would say, maybe even a week around then. That's on the 10th. Venus on the 15th she goes into Taurus. So Venus, on this new moon, is a full moon, as we've discussed, is in Aries, currently in Aries for about 3 to 4 weeks. We'll move into Taurus. But of course, before then, the next new moon will be on the 12th.
Mm-hmm.
So we always talk about the primarily the 2 weeks. So on the 12th, we have the Aries new moon at 22 degrees. And have I got that in front of me? Then yes, 22 degrees. And we'll have some interesting things to say about that in our next session.
We certainly will. That's for sure.
We're definitely going to be discussing Eris again when we talk about that new moon. Yeah.
So it's again, it's quite more laid back than
in general. Yes,
the energy of what we had through last year. That's
right. It doesn't have that power, it's power and intensity of it. Was just like again, and next month, it just seemed to keep rolling on last year. So it's certainly, I mean, things are still happening.
Yes,
there's a lot going on in the world, but it's a very noticeable shift of energy until we come, of course, to the next Saturn Uranus square in a few months' time.
in June.
It's in June, and Saturn will be retrograde then, so that will bring in another level of really strong energy again. Yeah. So if you get a chance, lovely people, to go out and do some moon bathing, and hopefully there will be clear skies, because there's nothing like getting out and just, even if you can just go for a walk in the night under the full moon, or go bush if you can, and just moon bathe. It's such a beautiful thing to do. Drink it in. Especially in Libra, there's something so beautiful about that energy. There's a grace and a graciousnness with the sign of, like, Libran people are just really nice people. They're charming. They're considerate of other people's needs. If a Libran friend invites you to a dinner party at their house, it's going to be just beautiful. Everything will be beautiful. They'll have put great thought into who the other guests are, and they make the most wonderful hosts and hostesses. They do brilliant in roles like, public relations and being an event organizer, because everything will just be beautiful, because they love that kind of work. They just love doing that kind of thing. The maitre d' hostess in a beautiful restaurant, it'll all be done so beautifully.
Yeah. And smoothly and calmly, and
that's right.
Yeah.
And this love of beauty is so real here. They're hairdressers, they're working in cosmetics, all of that, but they're often also running things like art galleries. They're not always the artists, but they have an eye for beauty and for quality art, and they love and appreciate it. So they're often the person who's running the art gallery, I've noticed. Yeah.
So if you're having a problem with your partner, for example, or someone in your life, on the full moon, you can put a bowl of water outside and get the Libran moon energy charging the water, and then you can start slipping it into the coffee of that person.
Would you like a drink of water, darling? That's right.
Glass of water, dear.
But that is exactly right, because there's an intention behind that, isn't it?
Absolutely.
To bring harmony.
Yep, absolutely.
Literally.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, if somebody was wanting to book a feng shui practitioner to come and harmonize their home, a really good time would be on a Libran full moon, or later in the year when the sun's in the sign of Libra. I mean, that could not be more perfect, because the energies are there, absolutely in alignment with all those principles of harmony that we're speaking about. And I'm guessing that just naturally, without anyone even necessarily knowing about it, in the month of Libra, feng shui practitioners and Chinese medicine practitioners are probably super busy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they just would be, because it's in alignment with that energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much to mull on.
Yes.
Thank you once again, Babula.
My pleasure.
Your knowledge and your insights, the way you share it so that we can understand it. And thank you everyone for joining us. And if you enjoyed this, please like our video, and we will be back in 2 weeks' time for that new moon in Aries to talk more about that. So until then,
certainly will.
yeah, we'll see you then.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.